Compass Mining is your trusted partner in Bitcoin mining. Whether you're investing in one machine or thousands, our customizable solutions are tailored to meet your needs. We are your experts in Bitcoin mining, offering a platform where individuals and businesses can purchase hardware, host machines, and access a range of ancillary Bitcoin mining services. We also specialize in large-scale site development and data center operations. Discover more at compassmining.io and see how we can power your success today. Hey miners, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the official home of power mining analysis. Wednesday morning, markets are muted this morning, both Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners, as we await the outcome of the first FOMC or Fed meeting of 2025 and under Trump's new leadership. Very interesting day in the markets. That's what we're going to be talking about in today's video, along with some news from the mining sector. Before we get into it, take a second, hit the like button, you guys. Big help to myself and the channel. Anthony loves it. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join and let us know in the comment section below your expectation of today's close, the outlook for the Bitcoin mining sector overall, and your forecast for the remainder of 2025. Now, with that being said, let's get into today's video. Okay guys, so that's right. Wednesday morning, we're patiently anticipating the first Fed meeting or FOMC meeting of 2025 and under Trump's new administration. That should be coming out within the next hour or two. As a result, Bitcoin miners and most of the equities are really in a holding pattern this morning, Anthony, waiting for this big news.
Yeah, obviously I'm not US based, so it doesn't affect me as much, but I know obviously people over there will be waiting with bated breath for the announcements coming out today. I believe already had announcements in Canada already announced already, so yeah, it'll come out today, and I'm sure we'll pick up on it tomorrow when the announcements have been released and are sort of like sunk in as to what the impact will be.
Yeah, you're certainly right. The Bank of Canada came out with a 25 basis point cut, which is great after I just renewed my mortgage last month, Anthony. So it was nice to hear about that one. Trump obviously pushing for a rate cut of a similar amount in the United States, looking to really bolster the economy. It's widely expected at this point they're going to leave interest rates flat. So that could be an element of surprise or a bullish surprise catalyst for the market. Time will tell. In addition to that, we're starting to get some more information out from Senator Loomis in her new position as the chair of the Digital Asset Committee. She's now given some context to this strategic Bitcoin reserve. Fairly quiet since Trump's inauguration. They've now come out confirming they're looking for 1 million coins total, around 200,000 Bitcoin per year. This would give them roughly 5% of the global Bitcoin supply. You think about 21 million coins minus Satoshi's million. If they're able to get 1 out of 20, that would be 5%. They're looking to hold for up to 20 years. And Senator Loomis, along with some of the economic forecasters, are estimating this could have an impact worth approximately half of the United States federal or national debt in that 20-year period. Now, interestingly enough, Anthony, other countries around the world are starting to follow suit. And we had a big announcement out today from the Czech Republic as well.
Yeah, we've had a really big announcement. And this is like one of the first Western economies now to announce they're actually reportedly going to invest in Bitcoin. I mean, it's not it's subject to a few obviously committees and has to pass through, but they're looking at this in a real fashion. The National Bank got about 140 billion of euros in reserve, and the governor who's putting this forward, he's suggesting that up to 5% of that reserve could be put into Bitcoin, and that 5% of 140 billion is 7 billion itself. So this is we talked about nations and states building their own strategic reserves. Well, this is one of the European countries now that have gone in there, and quite interesting because it's probably less than 6 months since Germany sold all its Bitcoin, and it had about, I think, 60,000 Bitcoin. So that would have had a significant amount of reserve that they kept hold of that. And then we heard the Germans say recently, why don't we buy some Bitcoin? This might be interesting enough to keep like. So this is really pleasing for Europe. It's not doesn't mean it's going to happen imminently like that. I say there's going to have to go through, do some due diligence on it. But there's a feeling that, with the amount of reserves they've got, to have a holding of about 5%. I think at the moment they've got about 4% in gold. So, they have got a sort of a diversified, and they've got some US dollars in their also in their reserves as well. And again, this is positive news coming out, and I would imagine, with over 200 countries in the world, we'll get more of these updates as we go through 2025.
We most definitely will. Now, Trump has put out on True Social today some more details around their plans to start purchasing Bitcoin. We've obviously seen his investment firm or crypto firm starting to purchase Ethereum along with wrapped Bitcoin. Now, in terms of numbers here, Anthony, $7 billion or $7 billion US dollars worth of Bitcoin, that works out to about 70,000 coins. Now, we just talked about the United States government looking for up to 200,000. We've also recently covered on the channel the amount of Bitcoin held on exchange, an all-time low sitting just north of 2.1 million Bitcoin among all of the global exchanges. So when you start taking bites of 200,000, 70,000, even what MicroStrategy's been purchasing so far this year, not to mention the ETFs, that 2.1 million Bitcoin supply really doesn't look like a lot at this point in time. There's projections that may even run out by August of 2027 based on the current drawdown or run rate that we're seeing without this nation state buying.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for months, most of 2024, because once those ETFs were approved last January, it's just been a steady growth in inflows of Bitcoin. Yes, there's been some outflow days, but the inflow days far outweigh the outflows. And the largest, the BlackRock fund itself has more than MicroStrategy, and MicroStrategy have more than 2 to 2.5% of all the Bitcoin ever going to be produced. So BlackRock have equally got, a similar amount. So those two organizations have got 5% between them. And then there are a number of other ETFs as well that have got significant amounts, more than 100,000 Bitcoin in their ETF. So they've been buying, generally most days, sort of, 15 to 20 times a daily production. So you're right. Even if there is 2 million Bitcoin on exchanges, that level of purchasing there just isn't sustainable. There's just not enough Bitcoin out there to purchase. And we said, we're not selling our Bitcoin. So the price in normal economics terms, when you have a supply that's running out and the demand's constantly increasing, the price will increase. That's just normal economics. So yes, there will be, we'll have some dips, but the price of Bitcoin will rise, greater than any of the dips that we've seen in recent weeks. These are just, the Bitcoin itself is getting, more and more stable as we go through these cycles with more adoption. That will increase as more. More people or more states, nations, companies purchase Bitcoin, and the adoption grows. We're still at a very early stage, and we're already talking about running out of Bitcoin. This is an interesting factor. The adoption itself is quite low, but it's only can grow from here. And as we see each day with all the latest articles that are coming out, we're seeing that pick up. We're seeing pension funds, we're seeing large companies. There's over 70 large public companies in North America now who've got Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And, those tables are regularly updated on social media. MicroStrategy have got the most, and they do have a significant proportion of all, if you added up all 70 companies and looked at what MicroStrategy are, I think they hold about 70% of all the Bitcoin held by public companies out there. But that doesn't mean to say that other public companies won't come into this space. We're already hearing, some of the big companies, even the bigger companies of MicroStrategy, the likes of Microsoft and the likes of Meta, some of these really big public companies could be, looking at having a bit of Bitcoin on their balance sheet, subject to shareholder approval. So time will tell. But you're right. 2027 is probably about, someone's probably calculated we're going to run out of available Bitcoin by then. And we'll see the price rise probably significantly before 2027 because of that issue.
Compass Mining makes Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone. Start mining in as little as 48 hours with our turnkey hardware, online and mining directly to your Bitcoin wallet within 2 business days. Find out more at compassmining.io and get started now. Yeah, we sure hope so. Now, you talk about growth and where we're at in this Bitcoin cycle. We've got a post here from Dan Held. It's interesting, Anthony, when we're in this day to day, and we've specifically stopped talking about the miner prices, Bitcoin price, very specifically this week, just because it is such a difficult week in the sector. But when you zoom out and you actually compare this cycle to the last run we saw in 2017, it's almost eerie how closely these two graphs mirror or represent each other, Anthony. So despite the short-term volatility, which we cover a lot on the channel, some of these painful days in the market or these big sell-off days, we're still tracking exactly on course as we did in the last 4-year run here.
Yeah, we are. And which, when you think about it, there was no ETFs in the last run. There was no MicroStrategy buying Bitcoin in the last run. And we're still keeping in line with that cycle. So looking at that chart there, I mean, it appears that between now and September, you've got the remainder of the bull cycle before it starts coming back down. And will this cycle remain the same as other cycles? Will we see a pullback at the end of 2025, like we saw at the end of 2021 and all the way through 2022? Time will tell. It's very hard to predict when there are so many positive news stories, and the adoption increasing and the buying increasing, and so yeah. But it looks good for the next 8 months. Put it that way.
Yeah, it certainly does. Now, Mike Alfred feels like the local bottom is in here. He came out with a tweet today saying he's buying some call options for March, June expiration on Cypher, CleanSpark, Marathon. Of course, he would with IREN if he was able to, but as an independent director, a little bit of red tape there. We've also seen some updated price targets. CleanSpark price target continuing to hold strong despite this week's pullback. And speaking of Mike Alfred, Anthony, a very impressive lineup we have. Frank Holmes from Hive Digital Technologies. We just had them on the program last week. They've reached out to come on tomorrow, talk specifically about this Paraguay expansion, their new 25 exahash target. Then on Friday, we have Mike Alfred, the one and only, joining us for a great discussion, all things Bitcoin, finance, Bitcoin mining related. And then next week, Ben Gagnon from Bitfarms, obviously a very timely interview, a lot of questions in terms of what's going on at Bitfarms. We're expecting to have their January production results and then get Ben's side of the story in terms of the Paraguay agreement or deal that we just talked about this week. So a very action-packed next couple weeks in terms of high-profile interviews.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to all three, actually. Remember, Hive and Bitfarms are the two mining companies that finished top of the production charts for literally the last 4 years. And I think Hive was certainly the top miner in the first of those 2 years, and was second in the last 2 years. And Bitfarms were literally the opposite. So they've dominated the production charts, which is one metric. Don't start thinking it's all about production. Production counts. You want to make sure you're able to mine Bitcoin with the machines that you've got, and they tend to get the most use out of their machines. But believe you me, in 2024, we saw their lead that they had in previous years against the rest of the pack shortening really, really quickly. So, it'd be great to get Ben's view on how he sees 2025 moving forward and all the changes that are going on around Bitfarms. And obviously, Frank's always great to have on the show. He's been in the space longer than most people. He was there at the start of Hive. They're the oldest public miner. And I think Bitfarms are one of the oldest 3 public miners. So we're going to have 2 of the OGs in the space for a week, with Mike Alfred, who's, again, director of IREN and, very, very big on social media. Does like his Twitter, and he gives valuable information out there. And he's got a lot of experience, and we'll try and tease some of that out during the podcast on Friday. But looking forward to those three. Really looking forward to them.
Yeah, it should be a great interview. Now, yesterday we covered the big sale or purchase of the Iguazu facility in Paraguay between Bitfarms and Hive. We also got some news today out of DMG Blockchain continuing to make some progress on their systemic trust initiative.
So yeah, an update out yesterday from DMG, basically letting the market know it's received registration for its subsidiary, the Alberta-based Systemic Trust Company. And this is going to be able to operate now as a special purpose trust company under the Loan and Trust Corporation Act of Alberta, with Alberta's Treasury Board and Finance. We had Sheldon on the podcast with Steve a few weeks ago, and they were talking through this. And basically, they can now operate as a qualified custodian of Bitcoin. So this will, this certificate they received today, it marks a milestone that will enable them to increase the adoption of blockchain technology and build trust in the cryptocurrency ecosystem by offering a highly secure, independent custody solution for their customers. And if you remember, Sheldon, was looking to, have literally Bitcoin that had been mined with purely 100% renewable energy as well. So that was obviously one of the things that was separating them out from the rest of the pack. So this is an interesting update today. Obviously, a lot of hard work's gone into this. They've got the certificate now, and let's just see how this falls. I mean, DMG have, they cover a lot of bases in their past. They've been a host miner, they're a self miner. They've built sites. They've produced firmware that's customers are using. They've got so much expertise. It's like for a small company to do so much out there. Sheldon, and we talked about Frank being in the space a long time. Sheldon's been in the space equally as long as Frank has. He's definitely one of the OGs out there with his knowledge. And this is just another part of their technology that they're looking to separate them from other players in the market. And let's hope that they get the share of the market that they're looking to achieve.
Most definitely. And we heard during that interview, this is no easy feat, especially in Canada where the banking system is highly regulated. Other companies have invested years into this process, but DMG able to come out successfully on top, and looking forward to hearing more about how this fits in with that custodial ecosystem that they're starting to build. Now, speaking of DMG, they're holding up relatively well today compared to the other miners. There's about 3 or 4 miners that are flat on the day, a mixed bag in terms of red and green. But realistically, Anthony, this is kind of what we expected leading into the FOMC meeting here, essentially a holding pattern in the market.
Yeah, I mean, have we reached the bottom now from the fallout from Monday's or the weekend's announcement around DeepSeek AI? We had certainly a challenging Monday and a challenging Tuesday for a number of miners. Bitcoin price has held well. It's 102,000 today and rising close to 103,000. So, and again, with all the positive news stories, some of which we've covered already today, we expect this to keep rising. I think it's interesting that, I think some of these HPC stories for the miners look like they've been oversold a little bit. And I expect money to be coming back into some of these mining stocks over the next days and weeks. Because they do look at the moment like buys. I mean, the announcement still needs to be ratified with all that came out from DeepSeek about, literally how many GPUs they've got. Was it really $6 million to complete what the likes of Microsoft had spent, 600 million trying to achieve the same outcomes? But, as we said yesterday, this is an opportunity as well as looking at it from a negative perspective. It's an opportunity for some of the companies now in the US to sort of like up their game and I'm sure, the president wants the US to lead in this space. He's said that already. And yeah, I expect some recovery in those HPC stocks, over these next weeks and months.
Yeah, it's a good question you bring up, and let us know in the comment section below, you guys. Do you think the local bottom is in for the miners? What do you expect to come from this afternoon's FOMC announcement in terms of interest rate being held steady or being cut? And your outlook for the remainder of 2025 in the Bitcoin mining space. We're only a month into the year, no shortage of activity and news in the sector, shaping up to be what we anticipated, a very exciting Q1 here and remainder of the year. So that's all for today, you guys. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe. We'll see you back here tomorrow.